With me this morning is Ms. Jacqueline Lewis, the CEO of Embrace. On an annual basis, the study financing program of the government of St. Martin utilizes or affords qualified students the opportunity to pursue tertiary level education. In accordance with the policy, as described in Article 13, Paragraph 3 of the Draft Island Ordinance Study Financing, I, as Minister of Education, Culture, Youth and Sports, am required to establish a priority list. So in keeping with that and in hearing the outcry of some of the public as well in terms of how scientific is your survey in coming up with the priority list, seeing the different initiatives that have come up in terms of brain gain and the rest, we have embarked as a ministry. This is prior to me coming in, but it is a very important venture which I continue to support in having, there was a terms of reference drawn up by the study financing division, and Embrace was the winner of this bid. So they are now charged, based on the terms of reference, with providing several deliverables, but they should develop a labor market survey, needs assessment survey, organize a media information campaign regarding the survey, and this is actually step one of that, execute the labor market needs assessment survey, collect, compile, and analyze the results of the survey, cross-reference it with the results of data which exists in study financing as pertains to the recipients, to avoid oversaturation, and to prepare and present a list of educational qualifications, professions, and jobs for which study financing should be awarded. This list will be utilized for 2017. Seeing as the time that has elapsed, the list should have been prepared or needed by December for the applications which would have come in during that time. However, due to certain obligations back and forth, that time was not realized, and therefore the priority list being used for 2016 is a revised version of 215. So we are really looking forward to having a scientifically based priority list which has been thoroughly researched and utilized input from throughout the community. The consultant is also to provide the vision study financing and the minister by extension with 2 progress reports before the final report is due. A wonderful flyer has been made, and I'm sure Ms. Lewis will be able to expound on it even more. But basically, I would like to, as minister, encourage, based on the theme, unlocking the potential of our youth, our future leaders. We believe that this study should be done community-wide. We really would love to have the input and the insights of all concerned, and your feedback is truly essential in this process so that you can update us in being able to provide a truly empirical, research-based priority list so that we can avoid any questions or negatives that come up. Having such a list also gives us the opportunity to reevaluate over a period of time to make sure that we are meeting the needs of St. Martin's community. So with that being said as an introduction, I would like to ask now Ms. Jacqueline Lewis, the CEO of Embrace, to further expound on where we are right now in the process and how much of an input we need from you, the general public.
Thank you very much, Minister Jacobs. Good morning, everyone. I am Jacqueline Lewis, as stated, the CEO of Embrace, and it is indeed my pleasure to have been selected as the firm to conduct this community-wide study. In doing this study, our approach is comprehensive in that it will involve several stakeholders on various levels throughout the community. So as the minister stated earlier, indeed, we need your input, your enthusiasm, we need your support, and we need your feedback. The study will be done looking at 2 areas, one being quantitative, and quantitative being that we need the numbers from whether it be the business community, several individuals throughout different key government departments and divisions, the schools, as well as our students, our future leaders. The qualitative aspect comes from the fact that we will be looking at other areas as well. There have been previous studies conducted. There are also other initiatives already underway, whether it be at the Labor Department or Economic Affairs Departments, and we'll be looking, as well as the Department of Statistics, we'll be looking at some of those ongoing studies, some of those findings, and bringing them together in a cohesive report that can pretty much paint a positive picture of where we're going as a community in terms of our labor market needs and the demands, as well as from an educational standpoint in terms of what are the areas where our youth need to be educated, need to receive this higher learning and come back as dedicated professionals to work within our communities. The priority list study will therefore be reaching out to several key target groups: the common and uncommon business entities, whether it be from the tourism and hospitality sectors as well as the professional services, different experts, law firms, mechanics, accountants, insurance, doctors, among several other professional industries. Organizations, the Pride Nature Foundation, sports organizations, the Marine Trade Association, arts and culture, mental health, international companies and organizations, whether it be UNESCO, UN, so on and so forth, to really bring together their trends, their developments, along with our growth here in St. Martin as a community. We will also be looking at evolving industries and economic projections. We'll also be particularly looking at employment trends and outsourcing, whether it be through the P&O, the Labor Office. Our students, in particular, the graduating classes of several high schools, we will be planning to go into the schools and conduct focus groups among the students with the approval of the minister and, of course, the school managers, of course. And there have been letters drafted to be sent out to the schools to get their approval, to get their involvement, and to confirm the dates for these focus groups. Another key undertaking will be the expos and professional networking events, and the HR Forum. The HR Forum is one initiative that is much needed in St. Martin, whereby we will be contacting several companies, looking at the HR managers and directors, and bringing them all together to have this level of discussion about who they're hiring, who would they like to hire, what are the skills and levels and areas of education that is needed among the students and the youth, and how do we as a community encourage the youth to study in those areas. So comprehensively, once we bring all of these different stakeholders together, our goal is to indeed develop not only a comprehensive written report where we understand the trends, the direction, the needs, the demands of not only the students but the labor market in our community as a whole, but also whereby we can have a very cohesive scientific, science-based priority list that we can stand proud of, and we can fully explain how we came by determining, okay, in the future we need X amount of doctors versus X amount of lawyers versus X amount of teachers versus X amount of mechanics or engineers. So that is our goal through this comprehensive study. And again, we need the entire community because we all live and work here. We all consider St. Martin to be our home. So whether you're from here or not, that's a whole different discussion that we're not having. It's simply about providing that level of input from the business community, from the residential community, from different organizations and individuals who care and are concerned enough about the future of our youth.
Thank you so much, Jackie. And I really, in hearing some of, even though I've heard it before from her, she's very convincing and bring across what the company can do in terms of getting this research done and getting the list prepared. But for us as a government, we are very, we've heard the cry of the people in the sense of labor permits continue to be given, and the students on St. Martin are left floundering in terms of not being well prepared to enter the job market, et cetera. So we're really trying to make the labor market and the educational preparation fit. And not only that, trying to ensure that these studies that are necessary, these jobs that are available, that they are then available for those students who would like to return. So there's a lot that has to go on in collaboration with, as she mentioned, the Labor Department, Economic Affairs Department in making projections and the like, but also in where the issuance of labor permits are concerned. So this is an area where we are trying to address the needs of the community as it develops. And she mentioned new types of emerging businesses.
Yes.
And just recently, actually, we had several discussions with the marine and trade people, their industry, where, yes, there is some relation with the schools, but that most of the students have no idea of the types of jobs available in this area. So in getting this priority listing, in getting a good view on what the island needs, we'll then also be able to, I think, prepare better with career fairs for our students to be able to get a better education on what is available as jobs. Because I think our students, and even us, we limit ourselves to thinking only on the jobs we see up front. And there are many, many other jobs within St. Martin's society that is behind, that is hidden, but is quite lucrative, that requires a skill set that many do not have, and therefore these jobs are usually done by people that require labor permits. So in order for us to be able to make our young people more employable, to meet the need of our youth, to motivate them to study in areas where they have skills but also that are needed on St. Martin, we are really looking forward to having this research done. As Ms. Lewis has also stated, not only will students and schools be involved, but also the businesses, and all these interviews will go a long way in helping us to assess the needs of St. Martin. So we encourage you to take part in this great initiative. It is really a win-win situation. It is a cooperation between public and private entities. And as Ms. Lewis also stated, I do endorse the letter that goes out to the schools requiring their complete cooperation and participation in the interest of their students. This will also, I think, assist schools in providing the type of guidance and student guidance that is required, career guidance that is required. And so close cooperation with all these entities is a priority for us to be able to establish a study financing priority list. This gives all of us on the island a great view on where we're going and what we need to do to get there, and also a tool to be able to assess it within 3 to 5 years as to are we meeting the needs or not. So with that being said, I now give the media the opportunity, as I know that you also are looking at ways to increase your the persons working in the media and giving them opportunities to upgrade themselves, as well as to show the different opportunities in the media. So I look forward to the questions that you will be directing towards Ms. Lewis and myself.
Yeah, we can go. Yeah, good morning and congrats and success on your initiative. Judy from the Daily Herald newspaper. I just have a couple of questions. What is the entire cost of this project? When is it expected to start, and what would be the duration?
Go ahead. The government has established it was a bidding process. I didn't walk with that information as to how much it costs. Do you know off the top of your head? To divulge that? I don't have that information at the top of my head, Judy, but it was done based on a bid. And in terms of the time, initially it was supposed to be ended by November, but as we are now at this stage, there's a timeline here. Right. Ms. Lewis can further expound on what still needs to be done and when the deliverables are expected.
Right. It will be a 3-month project, beginning officially in February, hence this press conference today to launch the project. And it will be going from February through March with the final report due in April. And the 2 progress reports will be sent between February and March as well.
It's a very short time to do a comprehensive scientific study. How many people are involved in this?
We have, in terms of our team,
how big is
we
the
have
team?
4 individuals involved. And in terms of the community, from the qualitative standpoint, we're trying to get at least 200 questionnaires and surveys completed. And from the business community and the students it really depends on their level of involvement, particularly the graduating classes, the HR professionals, individuals who can make the decisions about hiring and the level of education and skills needed on the job.
200 questionnaires in total?
Yes.
Okay. And I'm sure you're aware of the cost of the project.
Yes,
Since
I
you are
am.
What is the cost?
I'm not prepared to divulge at the moment.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah. Another question about, you mentioned work permits. We all know that we have certain sections in our economy where people only hire people from their own ethnic background. And is there a link between education and the Department of Minister Lee about why we're giving out these permits to foreigners, basically, while we have locals dying for a job?
Specifically, I can't assume which groups you're actually talking about, but I know, for instance, in previous priority lists, specific skill sets were mentioned, or the opportunity for someone to choose a career in the field of, for instance, jewelry setting and those types of things are or were on the list. However, the students are not choosing these fields. So if the students still do not choose these fields, you cannot force, you have a listing, and the students use that listing based on that to apply for study financing. So even though several of these different markets or different career choices have been as priority for us based on what we see as high amounts of foreign labor being employed, if the students do not utilize the opportunity, we are still forced to then employ foreigners who can carry out these things if it requires a basic skill set. In cases where no specific skill set is required, then it's really a place where the labor office and the labor departments and other such departments have to cooperate better. I do know that I have had in recent discussions with them and in questioning about, for instance, young people coming to me and stating that they haven't been able to get a job and they see XYZ working in jobs that they can do. I guess in terms of if someone has a permit for X amount of time, it is when that permit is about to elapse is when the business must place an ad, etc. And there's a protocol which must be followed, which I think is followed, but somewhere along the line there are loopholes which exist that we have to address as well. And having this priority list won't necessarily solve that problem. That will require other dialogue.
Okay, thank you. One more question. Is it now a 2 or a 3 month project? Because
3-month project.
3 months. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, I got it. Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Just another question. Is there a specific number of professions or career choices that should be on this list?
There is no limit
It's not
to
limited.
what is on the list. In the past, surveys were also done within the business community via a department within the Ministry of Education, the Student Support Services Division. And so that data was used, as well as looking at who and how far along in the studies our current students are, etc. So that was done. But in doing it in this manner this time, we're just looking at having a deeper research and also more open, that the public is aware and the participation would then hopefully improve and increase so that we have a better idea of what is available out there. But there is no limit in terms of what we need is what we need, and the only limit that is put upon us as government is the amount of
Study financing
that we can actually.
And just for clarity's sake, once this priority list has been established, as is the case with other priority lists, government does not award scholarships outside of that list.
There have been exceptions, I believe, but the priority list is the basis upon which study financing is granted.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Some have are also asked about masters. And so to clarify that as well, if a study requires a master's, then it is funded. But if, for instance, psychology, many who have psychology, you have to do a bachelor's and then you still have to get a master's to be able to do the practical work that is required. So in that case, then the study financing extends not just for the bachelor period,
But for the
but
master.
it is not across the board. So if somebody wants to study to be a medical doctor and they are approved for that, you have the pre-med part and then the medical part. So that is then taken up into the study financing that is awarded.
Would you be able to say already what amount we will have available to award?
For
in
study financing this year, no. At this time, no. But it would be, I guess, similar to last year's, but every year we have to base it on how many are actually studying, and then from the balance, we are able to see how much we can give out. And then sometimes students defer their starting date until a bit later, so we do not have the exact figures at this time.
Okay.
Yeah, one more question. Do you have any insight in how many students that go abroad to study on study financing actually come back to the island? And how many stay?
Well, that's one of the things that I would really like to get from this research, because we hear a lot of numbers and there are a lot of assumptions made about the return on investment of education. And we would like actually now to have that empirical data available in this report at this point. So today, I cannot say 30%, 20% off the top of my head. I'm sure if I go and I do some hunting and research, but the problem is not everyone that returns reports to the Vision Study Financing. So automatically after 4 years, their financing will lapse. Only those that deem fit that it's time to report that they have returned, we will know. So the information of those that have returned, that actually submit their letters that they have finalized their study, we have, but it is in no way indicative of all who have returned.
Yeah.
So we have to figure out, I think, more ways to have that done. And since now more of the students are reporting directly through study financing, they have a better view on where our students are now around the world.
But there's no condition linked to study financing that says, well, I'm going to give you this, you're going to study, but after that, when you're done, you come back here.
It is not as clearly defined in other countries. I have noted that in 2012-13, in my travels to Barbados, that there are contracts signed with the parents, as well as parent guardian, as well as a student, upon receiving any type of study financing from that country, in that if the student doesn't return and make a contribution back to the society, then the total amount has to be repaid back, and if not by the student, then by the person who co-signed. So we have not gotten there as yet, and I don't know what it would take for us to get there, but it is something I believe that goes hand in hand with accountability.
Yeah.
And when I was awarded study financing back in the late 80s, under the Netherlands Antilles, there was a contingency, because it was a full scholarship at the time, that you had to return and work 5 years for the island. So because what we are offering are, for the most part, partial loans, partial study financing scholarships, it is a bit more difficult to lay those type of conditions, I believe. But it is something that we're looking into making it more feasible for the return, or more mandatory for the return.
You're looking into that, you said.
I am definitely looking into that.
There's one other thing that comes to mind with this survey. You're looking at the needs of the current economy, but at the same time, there's also been talk for years, right, about diversifying the economy. So those are jobs and sectors that do not exist yet. That is not taken into account in the survey, right?
Correct. We are looking not only at the current economy, but at projections as well, in terms of the needs that will be required in the coming 4 to 5 years. So, because once the study financing is awarded, let's say in 2017, that student is expected to return home within 4 to
5 years.
5 years.
5 years after completing his or her study. So we're looking at the projections as well.
Yeah.
So it's beyond.
It's
current.
beyond this current year and the situation.
Okay.
Yeah.
You cannot look at something that you don't know, right?
Exactly.
Exactly.
But
Okay.
projections can be made in terms of economic development, what types of, especially, we have a tourism-based economy, but there are many offshoots of that economy that is unknown and underdeveloped as well. And as we're looking, as I said, at doing more within the marine industry, it's a growing trend, but also ecotourism is a growing trend, and other areas within cultural tourism and sports tourism. So that's why we're looking at all those other organizations in terms of job creation as well.
Yeah.
With that, I would like to thank you for coming to this press conference today, because it is a very, very important initiative that is being undertaken at the Ministry of Education, Culture, Youth and Sports with the assistance of the consulting company Embrace, with the leadership of Ms. Jacqueline Lewis. I believe she understands the term of reference that has been laid out for her, and has convinced me that she will be able to take this information and gather this information so that we are able to better prepare our future leaders. The theme under which this entire research is being done is unlock the potential in terms of professional potential of our youth, our future leaders. So I encourage the community in its entirety, all stakeholders, when approached, and even if you are not approached and you feel that you have input, to contact Ms. Lewis, and I'm sure she'll be willing to conduct the survey with you. So I look forward to having the final report in April. We have been promised 2 progress reports, so as soon as we have those progress reports, I will be updating the general public in an effort to keep us all involved and up to date on what is happening. I'm sure the students who are in their final years are quite interested in this, as well as their parents and the general community, the business community as well. So thank you so much for joining us for this press conference. Until next time.